Hey everybody, and welcome to episode 188 of the Revive Yourself podcast. Here we go.
Are you sick and tired of being sick and tired? Have you got a health issue that just won't go away no matter what you try? Then welcome to the Revive Yourself podcast, where we reveal the secrets to long-lasting health by getting to the root cause of problems that no one else is talking about. So you can have more energy, clear skin, healthier hair, a leaner physique, more confidence, and most importantly, do the things you love and live the life you deserve. Here's your host, Ryan Martin.
So everyone, welcome back to the show, episode 188. I know you've had a lot of fantastic information recently with the podcast, a lot to absorb. So especially last week's podcast with DeRay Ibrahim for biogeometry. Hopefully lots of you have been to the site, purchased what you need to purchase, and taking a deeper look into that, because it's going to be something that's going to really help us moving forward in terms of harmonizing any harmful frequencies. Today's show we have Melissa Treat on, who's another new guest. Melissa's a former ICU nurse, critical care nurse. She was doing that for 6 years, and before she got disillusioned with the quote-unquote healthcare industry, and she's now moved on, and she wants to share her story about what she experienced there, also how she helped her boyfriend in his survival story, and also what it's been like uncovering the truth around health and other aspects, and what it's been like sharing that with her family and other friends. So we'll be getting into that. First off, as always, the show is sponsored by www.reviveyourself.co and the shop at the website, and as I mentioned last week, I'm going to recommend the same products. Going into the winter months, vitamin C, vitamin D, critical, so is Volvic minerals, so you can get all of them at Ancient Purity on the Ancient Purity link. Also probiotics, guys, the P3OM from Biooptimizers, you can find them on the website. And if you've got any gut issues, the HCl or the mass enzymes are fantastic in terms of helping you digest food. After the age of 30, most people's digestive enzymes have completely depleted, and their HCl in their gut, so they're fantastic for anyone who's looking to actually digest the food properly. Also, head on over to the Finchley Clinic for the cat's claw, quadrupedra, and Palo Diarco teas. All of them, are fantastic for stimulating the immune system. The Palo Diarco is fantastic in terms of it's an antifungal, antiparasitic, antimicrobial, antibacterial. The quadrupedra is what they call stone breaker, so it's fantastic for clearing the liver of any stones, and the cat's claw is fantastic for the gut health. So heading over to them. Also, if you want to stop putting poisonous perfumes on your skin, I suggest you heading over to essentialoilwizardry.com. You can put in the code REVIVE10 for 10% off any of their products there, for the best healing essential oils on the planet. Dr. Nick Berry, my friend, he's got an he's just a wizard when it comes to it, hence his name. So you can find whatever you need over there. Otherwise, guys, that's it. Let's head on with the show. Introducing Melissa Treat. Enjoy, and I'll see you on the other side. Right, guys, today we have a new guest to the podcast, Mel Treat, all the way from South Carolina today. And we're going to be covering a few topics. Mel actually used to be a nurse for, was it 10 plus years?
Actually, it was like 6 years, a 6-year nursing career.
6-year nursing career. Recently, has been quite vocal about quite a few things that have been happening in the world, especially in the alternative world, things that, quite a few of you guys may be aware of, but she's gone very deep into a few topics that I think we need to shed some light on. So welcome to the show, Melissa. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
No problem. So that's one of the things we actually want to touch on, was your journey into the alternative world, talking about what you're talking about and your background as a nurse. That's just because I'm actually it's the first time I'm going to be hearing a lot of this myself as well. I actually want to know what it was that first drew you to nursing, and then got you to leave nursing and go into what you're doing right now.
So it's funny. I feel like I went almost inside out. So my first college degree was in kinesiology. I studied exercise science. I've always loved the human body. I've loved just like health and fitness. So my first career was as a personal trainer. So I was a personal trainer for about 10 years. And mainly I decided to go back to school just for a different like lifestyle. You know, I was in the gym from like 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. every day. And I was just like, I don't know that I can do this forever. So I decided that I wanted to go back to school to study nursing, which obviously isn't great hours either, but I felt like it might give me a little bit more freedom because at least I would have like paid time off and all that kind of stuff. So anyways, I became a nurse. Because I truly love helping people. I love health. I love fitness. Like I said, it was my passion. I, went to nursing school, and I remember like my first time with a patient in the hospital, and it was a diabetic patient who had just had both legs amputated. I was a nursing student, and I went in, and my job was to help him order breakfast, and he ordered, double dose of pancakes with extra syrup and like all this stuff, and I was like, he can't have this. Like, he's diabetic. He just lost his legs. And they were like, oh, it's fine. Just let him order whatever he wants. And then we'll just give him sliding scale insulin. And I was like, what is happening here? So like, I felt like I went into nursing thinking like, oh, like all the principles that I know about health and wellness, I'm going to be using to help people get healthy. And that was the case. So I ended up, I worked up to becoming an ICU nurse. So I did love critical care medicine. I was a charge nurse. I was a rapid response nurse. I loved like an adrenaline junkie. So I loved acute care nursing, but I was also, it made me very passionate about preventative health. And, I was in a medical surgical ICU. So much of what we were treating, I was like, I could have helped these people more if I had like met them earlier in life or was able to teach them actual, information and not just give them a medication to take. So it made me really passionate about preventative health. And I ultimately stepped away from nursing when my boyfriend was in a motorcycle accident. I stepped away to take care of him. But I've been out of the hospital for a little over 2 years now.
Right.
So now I'm just getting back into like my roots of like, health and true wellness and trying to fix this, medical system that like masquerades as a healthcare system. It's not about health. It's about medicine.
It's about money. It's about making money. I mean,
yes.
Someone just had their legs cut off and then giving them pancakes for breakfast. It's like, this goes, they honestly, it's like, I get the fact that it's people's choice. They can choice, but has that person been educated into what's actually?
Yeah, exactly.
Because he probably would make a different choice if he had the education to not have something that's going to cause, his symptoms to just get worse and worse until he's in an even worse state. But interesting, you said, you were in the ICU, you did acute care, and that for me, because I also post a lot about the medical system and how it's actually an abomination in a lot of terms, but for accident and emergency and acute care, that's a big fan. Like broken bone and stitches, first degree, but all these burns, things like that. That's what it's there for. It's for people who need that help right there. For chronic illness, advanced disease, terrible, in my opinion. But the fact that you're there doing that, that's the one I always try to say to my listeners. That it's a tool and it should be used when it's needed. Problem is, unfortunately, the nurses, the doctors don't get taught what to do with advanced disease or chronic illness, and so they apply the same sort of principles. Oh, someone's got a headache, just give them a pill. Surprised I don't cut people's heads off. They go,
right.
So it's interesting. And so through your years as you said, what did you say? ICU? You say critical care?
Yeah, so I was a charge nurse of an 18-bed medical surgical ICU. And then I held a position as a rapid response nurse. So it was a 1,000-bed hospital. It was a really busy ICU right outside of Washington, D.C. And so I would respond to any of like the emergencies on the floors or whatnot, see if the patients need to be upgraded, stuff like that.
So those emergencies, would you say, for example, would it be like someone breaking a bone, getting a fracture, having stitches, or were some of those emergencies like someone being rushed in for issues that you said before could have been prevented if they had the knowledge?
Right. So a lot of it was, the emergency room took care of like broken bones and stuff like that. I responded to emergencies where a patient would be on one of the medical floors if the ratios were too high, like the nurses were taking care of too many patients. And if someone was more critically ill than a nurse could take care of on that floor, they would call a rapid response, or like, if their vital signs indicated it or whatever, if they were in distress, I would come to that and see, can we fix this here on the floor? Are there interventions that we can do here, or do they need a higher level of care?
Right. Okay. Got you. Okay. So yeah, once again, it's almost like you're trying to put out, a fire, really. Yes. When
it's putting out fires. Yeah. But what I'll say in terms of Western medicine, like what you were saying, like there is a use for it. So my boyfriend was in a really horrific motorcycle accident. His body was thrown 300 feet from his bike. That is obviously an emergency that he would have died from had we not have, medicine, and we didn't have trauma care. And so he was rushed to the hospital that I worked for. My friends did 8 minutes of CPR on him. They saved his life. They did a massive blood transfusion. That first night, he got 23 units of blood products. So there is, like, obviously, people are saying, like, how can you be like against healthcare? Like, Jason's alive because of it. I'm like, I'm not against healthcare. There is such a need for emergency care medicine. It's the rest of the stuff that is just, it doesn't make any sense. We're causing way more problems than we're solving.
Well, it's because basically it's the thing. It's like if they stop there and they let like real health care take care of the prevention, for example, if they stop there and they got people into their diet, lifestyle, environment, did all those things, it'd be like, okay, you take care of that when people really need you, and we've got this covered. Unfortunately, that doesn't make them billions, if not trillions, which is going to come out for repeat prescriptions for their drugs that they go. And New Zealand and America are the only two countries in the world where you actually can advertise medicine or medication, which is a shambles, because most of the adverts haven't been over there. 75% of them, maybe 85%, are actually all medicines, and they'll say, "Oh, this drug is good for this," and they'll show someone like hopping down the road being happy, and then afterwards they'll reel off 10 minutes of side effects that come with that drug. And so and this is the thing, I'm not against it as well. Like when it comes to accident, emergency, car crashes, I always say that there's not enough white willow bark in the world that's going to fix that issue, if you get an actual accident. But
right.
They just bastardized it and said, well, no, we can just deal with everything. And it said before, it's symptomology, right? It's just treating a symptom rather than getting to the root cause or even educating. If they spent a fraction of the money they did on advertising to educate people, these symptoms would be going. I just wrote a post a minute ago. One of the reasons are plentiful, but like people are severely overfed. No, sorry, they're hugely overfed and severely malnourished. Run around eating foods that are inflammatory, allergenic, little to no nutrition in, and people wondering why they're obese or inflamed. And that's just one of the issues. We get to sedentary, now people just order foods in, Uber Eats, they don't have to move to get out to even go and get their food, or no exercise, no sunlight, no fresh air, a million things going on. So, you probably what was the food like that they served in the hospital to
oh my gosh, it was horrifying. It was horrifying. I have so much to say about this, but even just, like our critically ill patients getting Insure, like what is Insure going to do for them? It's a literal chemical.
That product is a fucking horrific nightmare. Someone said to me the other day, Ryan, I've got this to take. I was like, I wouldn't give that to my worst enemy.
Literally. And here I am taking care of patients who have metabolic issues. Like they're literally in the ICU because of, underlying metabolic conditions. And we're giving them Insure and like tube feeds. And it's just, there's so many solutions that are just being completely neglected and completely ignored. Even just, I have so much to say about the culture of healthcare too. I was a nurse and I would get made fun of every day for bringing my own food because I was like, I'm not eating what's in our cafeteria. Like I'm not, it's disgusting. It's not actual food. And so I would meal prep, before I came into work, and I would eat all sorts of healthy stuff. And I would get teased because like, it's not about health. Our healthcare system is not about health.
All they have to do is look at you. It's one of the things that, you look healthy as a nurse. Most nurses, unfortunately, and most doctors, they don't. It's a saying that dead doctors don't lie. Most of them, doctors on average die 10 years before their patients do. And most nurses are obese. They look very, same as the health ministers. They look like the unhealthiest people on the planet. And it's like, they can sit there and laugh. But it's like, this is why people, they just think food's calories. It's like, it's energy in formation. It builds your organs, your lungs, like your ligaments, your tendons, your tissues, your brain. And so, it's funny when one of the things you could say to them is, well, look at me and look at you. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be arrogant like that, or something arrogant, just be like obvious about it. But you can see that you look healthy. And I bet most of the people you work with didn't look healthy.
No, they didn't look healthy. And nurses work really hard, and their bodies hurt. Their feet hurt at the end of the day. Their back hurt. And it's like, yeah, like I worked a night shift. I would choose to sleep less during the day so that I could get up and meal prep and get a workout in, either do yoga or, do a HIIT workout or go for a run before I went to work, because it made me feel better. And they were like, well, you need to be sleeping. Like, you need to be. And I'm like, no, I need to be doing what makes me feel good. Like, yeah, I obviously need to be sleeping, but I'm not going to sacrifice, like not having the food that makes me feel healthy. And I'm not going to not get my own movement and sunlight and, all the things that I need to thrive. Like, I'm not going to not do that because I'm a nurse working night shift. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, it's just crazy to me that they don't even think food has an impact on certain, on all health issues. It's crazy. I mean, it's in 2021. I've been doing this 12 years. When I started, I thought it was crazy. Like, I mean, even down to the point of there's like healthy food section in the supermarket and there's junk food. So that should give it away, right? It was Mark Heyman who said, like, if there's a health food section in the supermarket, what does that make all the other food?
Like just trash.
And so it's like, if it's not coming from the ground, or if it's not swimming in the sea, or moving, you shouldn't be eating it. Processed, on the shelf, devoid of nutrients, enzymes, everything like that. And yet this is what most people eat, and they wonder why. But they're not. I mean, unless you go through it, like I think we said, every master was once a disaster. Once you learn these things, or you go through it yourself, you learn the truth. Most people from a young age, they're brought up on TV, and their parents only know what the doctors have told them. So it's like having to try and unlearn it. And a lot of people's egos are really built into this stuff, especially doctors.
Mm-hmm.
My medical degree is more than your Google search. It's like, all right, okay. Or your YouTube video. It's like, well, the YouTube video I'm watching is actually full of doctors and health experts. But your medical degree was funded by GlaxoSmithKline or Pfizer or whatever, Right. Agriculture, so big agri. And so it's interesting. It's actually embarrassing that food in hospitals is so bad, and yet how does that not even compute to people? Like the food you're eating, the water you're drinking,
Right.
Right.
How can we expect anyone to get healthy when we're not giving them what they need to be healthy? Like, how can we expect, even in critical care medicine, how can we expect to save lives if we are not giving them what the human body needs to not even thrive, but survive?
Yeah, and the amount of in that situation as well, I'm guessing the amount of everyone's given antibiotics, is given them out for fun, lots of anti-inflammatories, etc. And the thing was it like trying to get people out of the hospital as quickly as possible? Like when people were in, what was like the standard procedure if someone comes in who's in critical care? Like what was the, because you hear like stories where in America they do like something called a wallet biopsy. If someone hasn't got insurance, they don't even treat them. So what is like the policy in America when it comes to treating someone? To get them out or to keep them running?
Well, that's a good question. No, we definitely try to get them out, I would say. I mean, there are so many different policies that you are always being reminded of in terms of like what the CEOs want you to be doing with your patient care. So definitely we're always mindful of like making sure that people don't have extended hospital stays, making sure that they, have a discharge plan that is hoping to prevent them from being readmitted to the hospital. Are they practical and effective? In my opinion, no. Like on surface, we're like doing what's best for the patient, but like when you actually understand the human body and understand even just like pathology and illnesses and prevention and healing, it makes no sense. Like on paper, like technically we're trying to like keep costs down, but it doesn't work. Like it's all just so broken.
Yeah, it doesn't work because by trying to keep costs down, it's like short-term gain equals long-term problem.
Yeah.
Well, same as what they're doing with GMOs and, trying to tell everyone that genetically modified organisms are fine for the world. It's like, yeah, good. Eat them. I mean, there's so much research out there showing that when animals have been fed GMOs, they have malformations in the brain and organs and livers, and they can't process, they can't even compute things properly. So I think it was Pottinger's cats, where he did like 3 generations of cats when they were fed. So they had cats that were being fed organic food, and cats that were being fed like food that was being radiated, etc., processed foods. And it took 3 generations for the cats being fed processed artificial food to basically be infertile, to not being able to Pottinger's cat. So and that
I feel like that's what we're seeing now, though. Like
there's going to be the normal healthy humans, and there's going to be what they're injecting people with now. I mean, they're already not really human anymore, and now they're definitely not. So my question, I was just going to say, so when it comes to your boyfriend went through an horrific car accident, motorbike accident.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully he's on the mend. He's doing a lot better.
Yeah, he's doing really well. He had a really hard, and this was also a lesson I think that I learned just being on the receiving end of healthcare. They did a phenomenal job saving his life from the trauma, but then his medical care was atrocious. And we had a lot of complications, infections, really severe delirium, just like poor pain management, I mean, the delirium itself was so bad. He doesn't remember from May until August from his accident. So anyways, he is doing well now, but it was a really long journey of healing and trying to I was by his side 24/7, just advocating for him. Like, I can't even tell you how important it is to have someone who understands medicine and how healthcare works and all that, being able to be there and advocate especially hearing stories of what's happening through our current times with family members not being able to be in the hospital. It just makes me so sad because a patient's not going to have a good outcome if they're not able to see their family. A patient's not going to have as good of an outcome if I don't think Jason would live through his accident if it had happened in this time with me not being able to be there. I actually can guarantee that he would not be alive.
Right. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, there's lots of research showing that how powerful. I mean, they've even shown that in cancer patients, people that have had human interaction, the amount that they actually heal on those that don't. Human touch, human interaction, it's huge. And having someone there, as you said before, that can understand what you're going through and actually be there supportive. So I'm glad to hear that he's on the mend. I'm glad to hear that he's doing really well. You said this happened 2 years ago and you haven't gone back since. To know him. Why? What was it? Just because you needed to be full-time care, or was it because you had enough of the system?
I mean, definitely some of both. So I had started before his accident. I had started a side hustle because I knew that I didn't want to be a nurse forever. There was a nurse on my floor who would work there for longer than I had been alive, and I was just like, that ain't it for me. I can't do this. It feels awful. I don't feel fulfilled. I don't feel like I'm helping people. I don't want to be working nights. So I had my eyes set on not, being a nurse in a hospital forever. His accident definitely accelerated the process, and then especially again, being on the receiving end and even just the mental trauma, and emotional trauma that I went through of gaslighting in the medical industry is real. And so just to paint a picture, I worked at this hospital. I was a charge nurse of an 18-bed ICU. So they obviously trusted me for that position. I was only one of 5 of the rapid response nurses responding to calls in a 1,000-bed hospital. So again, a pretty high acuity position that they trusted my critical judgment, my nursing skills, my temperament for that. And then when we were in the same hospital on the receiving end of care, and I was advocating for the man that I love most, they would tell me that I was wrong, or they would tell me that some of my concerns, they would just literally shut me down and be like, no, that's not it. Or at one point he was having an allergic reaction to his antibiotic. And I knew it was from the antibiotic. And they just kept being like, no, this antibiotic doesn't cause that. And I was like, but it's right in front of you. I'm telling you, that's what happened. So I watched him suffer unnecessarily. I sat by his side for weeks holding his hand while he was so delirious. He thought, like, for weeks he would cry because he thought the cops were trying to get him, or like he thought I was like involved in like some drug deal. Like he was just so paranoid, and he would cry and scream out and like all this stuff. And I had my hands were so tied, and I was made to feel like so stupid. And I was like, but I know this, and I know him, and like, you trusted all my, knowledge and skills for this position, but you don't trust it as, me advocating for one of your patients. Like, how does that make sense? And so it opened my eyes to a lot of just like how like truly traumatic, the medical system can be, and how horrible it feels to have your concerns completely invalidated.
Yeah, I mean, having been on the receiving end myself, gone through 5 years of torture at their hand, I know what they can be like. I know how egotistical they can be, and even when it's right in the face. And I've had it as well with my dad, and going through certain things and speaking to them, and some of the things they come out with. It's infuriating, to put it mildly. To put it actually where it is, it's like the point where I actually want to strangle someone to death. But it's just, the ego is quite, they're probably saying to you in that situation, oh, you're too involved, because it's someone that you love. But when it's right in front of them, they can see someone's having an allergic reaction to antibiotics, which a lot of people do, then it's baffling why they wouldn't take that on board. So you said you had a side hustle, which is, I think you're working with Monet, is that correct? Yeah. Stuff, yeah. But throughout this period, you've been digging into lots of other stuff that's been going on, which is quite interesting. And you say it's been, I mean, before Jay's accident, I mean, how long have you been sort of like in the alternative world, knowing sort of the truth about what's going on? Like, where would you say that, when did you say that started?
I would say it's honestly pretty. So I was always more holistic minded, but I didn't understand how. I knew it was corrupt. I knew it was broken. I knew all those things. It wasn't honestly until pretty recently. I got, am I allowed to say like the words that we're not allowed to say?
In terms of the C word?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just say the C word, which isn't cancer. It's the other one.
Right. So I got the C word in July of this past year. And I had a friend prescribe the I word, the drug that shall not be named. And I had a great result from it. I had a really mild case. And it led me on this path of researching parasites. Mm-hmm. And I have done like a full parasite cleansing protocol. I started doing coffee enemas. I dove hardcore into learning. And it all started with that. So honestly, only since this past July have I started, I would say, unlearning to the point that I really needed to see things as clearly as I can now. It's taken me, it's a lot to unlearn. It's everything.
It's a hell of a lot to unlearn. And it's, I've been doing it 12 years, and it's one of those things that it's funny how some people are just so like, wow, I knew this was broken. You go into it and they're so open to understanding what the truth is, and other people just don't want to know, or they just switch off, they just call it conspiracy or whatever. And it's just like, how many times do we have to be right before, you finally wake up? And it's the thing where I have these things with doctors, certain things when I help people from all manner of health issues, from cancer to gut issues, whatever it is, and you still get doctors or, questioning it. And it's like, well, I've helped over 7,000 people individually get better, and my industry has helped millions. So, mm-hmm. I'm either the luckiest person alive, or what we do works,
Right.
And you guys kill more people. Well, apart from cancer and heart disease, you're the third leading cause of death in America. Your drugs kill more people than heroin and cocaine combined. If you're told the truth, you'll probably be the first, but you don't even put those deaths down because you don't want to be the first. And so, you dig into it, and it's not trying to be. This is the thing of it as well, because a lot of doctors and nurses, they're good people. They've just been taught a certain way, and they're their identity is stapled to what they've learned. Mm-hmm. So it's hard for them. And it's also hard for people to understand I think I put a post up about 6 months ago, or it might be longer, and it said like, because you're a good person, and this is like we talk about the corruption, the people who are evil, who know what's going on. It's like, because you wouldn't do that. For example, because you wouldn't be evil, you can't comprehend other people doing it. But it's like, but you're not a paedophile, but there are paedophiles out there. It's the way the world works. It's just because you wouldn't be it, and most people are good people. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to walk down the street without getting mugged. They can't comprehend it, and that's unfortunately the people behind this. So July, so July, August, September, about 4 or 5 months you've been into this.
I've just been living my life in a rabbit hole, basically.
Welcome to the red pill. Welcome to the side. And so, what have you uncovered that has shocked you the most?
Oh boy. Well, I mean, I think something that really started to open my eyes was seeing how Rockefeller, back in like 1910, how Rockefeller basically wanted to make money using waste products from his petroleum. And right. So that is how modern medicine was created, and even just like the basically like misinformation campaign that they started back in 1910, saying like all natural, holistic minded people like chiropractors and, everyone who had like herbalists and everyone who had knowledge on how to naturally heal the body was basically called a quack, and like a total, like an abusive, like shameful campaign to make people crazy or make people censored. And I feel like, like what you're saying with doctors and nurses are good people. They are, and they truly want to help. And that was something that I had a hard time with, like even starting to come forward and speak my truth, because I didn't want to hurt the people that I used to work with, because I knew it was going to trigger them. And it's interesting now because I just feel like it's an abusive system. Like the system is basically narcissistic abuse from our schools, from our education. We learn all these things. And then it's like, no, if you dare to question this narrative, you're a fool. And I mean, that's like kind of where like me getting made fun of for bringing a salad to work, like came from. It was like, no, like if you eat green stuff, you're like too healthy. I was like, why am I embarrassed about wanting to be healthy? Like, that's so weird,
That comes from the mammalian part of your brain,
right?
Not the hierarchy, because back in the day, if we got extra diet from the hierarchy or the herd, we'd probably wouldn't live. So, reptile, mammalian, and human part. And what you said there about history, or what you've been learning, is his story. Whoever wins writes the story. Like the church is, the medical system is now like the church, worshipping at the altar of scientism.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I want you to look into, have you ever heard of the Hoxie Cancer Clinics?
No.
You'd love them. Hoxie Cancer Clinics. He's got a book, When Healing Become a Crime. He was healing cancer for years, and he's the only person who took the AMA, the American Medical Association, to the court and actually won, because his family had oil money. They could actually take them to court and they won. Right? I'll let you look into it another time, which would be good for you. But no, what you were saying is true, right? It's just you're sitting there having a salad and you're wondering, why am I feeling bad for having a salad?
Right. So it's not that they I feel like they are trying to help. They are trying to do their best, but the system itself is so broken, and everything that we have learned have been indoctrinated into to think is real is not. It's all a lie. It's all based off corruption. It's all based off greed. And so how can good people be doing good work in a broken system? They can't. So like, even if you are a good person wanting to do what's best, you're going to be burnt out. You're going to be, minimized. You're going to be told like, you don't have time to you don't have time to take your patient outside to the sunlight. You don't have time for all this stuff. And so the system like wears people down. And so then they just like go through the motions. And so then it's like, yeah, okay, I need to get my, annual thing for, this season. And it's like, okay, well, let me just go get it. You just like stop thinking because you just have so much to do. And so, yeah, like I got that thing all 5 years. I just like didn't really question it. It was like, gotta go submit, because I need to submit my papers by this time. And, you just don't think and you don't question and you just do. And so even I was talking about, cognitive dissonance. I was talking about how I took care of patients. I remember my first patient who had an adverse reaction to their annual thing. And he was a guy who was a couple of years younger than me at that time. So young, he was like probably late 20s. And he got his thing and he got Guillain-Barré, and it was really severe. It was like all the way, he was paralyzed. So basically ascending paralysis all the way up to his neck. We intubated him and he was awake. He knew what was going on. I just remember his like big blue eyes, like staring at me, terrified, because he knew everything that was going on and he couldn't move his body. He couldn't give me a thumbs up. He couldn't squeeze my hand. He could just like communicate by blinking once for yes or twice for no, or whatever I had, said to him. And I just remember like holding his hands and looking in his eyes and being like, God, like, this is crazy. Like, why doesn't anyone talk about this? I didn't know this could happen from getting that, like what, this is crazy.
It wasn't that. The wind changed direction.
Right. Right. And so like, I would like come out of the room and be like, come to my coworkers and be like, did you guys know this? Like, this is nuts. And they would just say like, no, it's so rare. And I'll tell you, I didn't know what VAERS was until after I retired as a nurse. I had no clue. No clue.
That's the thing. I've had this conversation with doctors, Mel, and I'm like, I say, or someone will say, "Oh, Ryan's against the things that go in your arm," and I'd say, well, and they say, "Oh, how can you be like that? They've saved millions of lives." I go, "Okay, well, show me the research where they've done that." I say, "Okay, first of all, before we even do that, what's in a flu?" And they'd be like, "I don't know, viral particles and saline solution." I'd be like, "No," and that's why we're not having a conversation, because you haven't got the faintest clue what's in one. Carbonic acid, antifreeze, MSG, mercury, thimerosal, aborted fetal cells, all these things, and you're telling me that you know more about these things than I do. You're beyond crazy. And then you look at all the stats on the charts, and they've got, I always say this all the time, scientists and doctors today, they're no more than modern day prostitutes. They can be paid to get whatever result you want. And they've done it for years, where they just come in and they want money. And so the doctors will do. And if the doctor doesn't do what they say, they won't have a job. So they get someone else in to do it. Especially when it comes to these things, and having interviewed so many top doctors on these injections, and even like recently, Dr. Thomas Cowan about it, and looking into research of him and Dr. Andrew Kaufman and Dr. Stephan Lanka. It goes back to like John Enders, I think it was in 1954, who realized that they'd all have to become plumbers if they didn't continue with this lie. And they just pushed it, and it's become something that people now, it's like people they've been so baffled by the bullshit that they think that anyone who questions it's crazy. And health can be produced by injecting loads of toxins into your body. Interesting. And all the things like Chinese medicine or Ayurveda or anything from like indigenous tribes like Native Indians or whoever it is, that gets lost because they just get wiped out by the industrial machine, and so these people had wisdom beyond their years, shaman, for example. This is the other thing that the medical industry cracks up about when we talk about how herbs can help certain ailments, and they're like, "Oh, that's crazy," So, okay, well, do you know that your medical company, Pfizer, GlaxoSmithKline, Moderna, all these companies, they send people down to the Amazon to speak to the shaman, to talk to the shaman, and the shaman talk to the plants, and the plants tell them which ones of them can heal certain issues, and those people then talk to the shaman so they can then extract those molecules and put them in their medication. So you call us crazy, but they know this works, and that's what they use them. And It's funny, and they put a smear campaign against everyone. When you dig a bit deeper, it's like about anything, when it comes, don't listen to what they say, watch what they do. And so, anyway, they can't patent nature, so they can only patent, certain molecules, and that's why they've got all these drugs, and they've got half the world addicted to opiates. Yeah.
It's so sad. Like I saw a stat today that was like the big pharma spends 19 times more on advertising than it does on research. Yeah. And I'm like that makes me sick. It makes me just ill. Like Ugh.
because they are beholden to their shareholders. They've got a certain amount that they have to make every quarter. What was it? Something that they've made 18.9 billion the first quarter. The first jabs were released over the C word, and a lot of that as well was due to the drugs they released to fight the conditions that were made from the said injections. So, it's the fox watching the hen house, and this is why, like, you got people moving from the FDA to Pfizer, and then from Pfizer to CDC, and it's like, how does that make any sense whatsoever? And unfortunately, they don't understand that they're doing all these things for profit, or if you go a bit deeper, for nefarious reasons. But the planet, before very long, we're getting rid of I think it was the bees, and it's like before you used to have so many mosquitoes and flies, etc. Or bees, you don't see them anymore. And the bees and insects are the sex organs of the planet, and when they go, we go. And we're very, very much near that point with what we're doing. With the Sank G that's going on, and other things that are in the air, industrial pollutants and NaNO tech that's going around, and so it's nice to have another soldier in our team though, Mel, who's there looking into it and researching, because it's one person at a time wakes up to this, especially someone like yourself who's been in that industry, who's been a part of it, to come out. They're like the biggest wins, because it's like, you've seen what doesn't work, you've been there. I have a lot of my clients that were nurses, and then they I can't do this anymore, right? I'm hurting people. I'm like, yeah, you're not doing it intentionally, but the procedures you've got in place aren't helping them get better long term.
Right. And so, especially like in critical care medicine, like, I mean, you see some pretty hard things to see that, a human body shouldn't be going through. And I got into nursing because I wanted to help people. And in nursing, I was like, I just feel like I'm torturing people. Like, I literally feel like I'm torturing them and making them suffer. And this doesn't feel good, like on a soul level, like even when I couldn't put all the pieces together, I just was like, this isn't it. Like, this makes no sense. And I can't be a part of this.
Yeah. And the thing is once you start doing that as well, it's really hard for you to even, do your job as you're meant to do it, because you just don't believe in what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And so, I've had I think Dr. Kelly Brogan, was it, who come out of that system. Quite a few now have, and they're like, because the other thing is, like, I wasn't getting anyone any better. I was just putting them on more drugs, and that wasn't enough. And it's taking this for that, and then that for this, and all of a sudden they're on. I've had clients come to me that own 70 different medications. 70. It's unbelievable. So that was one of the things. The Rockefeller. What else has caught your attention?
So yeah, I just keep diving into new rabbit holes. But I had been starting to research more and more on the electronics and the effects that has on our body, and even just iron fortified foods, calcium fortified foods, like all the things that they tell us to do to be healthy. And so I had been researching all that stuff, and even some of it, I'll admit it took a while for me to even understand EMFs. And it was a concept that I had a hard time to even wrapping my mind around. But as I'm researching all this, was kind of when Astroworld happened. And I was like, yo, this is real. When I was first looking at it, I was like, it even seems far-fetched, it even seems crazy, right? It even seems like a conspiracy theory. It's pretty out there. And then when I saw proof of it and the effects of it, right there in front of me, and I was just like, this is it. This is real. This is all happening. I understand it all. And I put the pieces together, and now I'm just fully integrating, just understanding all of it.
So the people out there, Astroworld, just for people out there don't know what it was. What was Astroworld?
So the celebrity named Travis Scott had a concert, and there was a bunch of other performers there too. I guess they have them every year. It was in Texas, and at the concert there were, reports now, I think it's 10 people were reported dead. But when you look at the news and what the news is saying, it is wildly different from what you can see with your own eyes when you go to TikTok or Instagram and see the videos that the kids there were posting and their testimonies and them talking about how the energy, they kept like every interview or every TikTok video I saw the kids talking about it, they were like, the energy, like it just felt awful. Like our bodies didn't feel good. They kept talking about, I haven't even seen Squid Games, but they were talking about like red light, green light. And when he started singing, it was like a red light where they couldn't move. They were all like basically trapped, like their body, they couldn't breathe. They weren't getting enough oxygen. They kept talking about like everyone was like putting their face up, trying to get air. They're just like, there was no oxygen. The news is reporting that it was like basically a crowd crush that killed 10 people. But when you look at the videos, they're all trying to escape. They're all trying to like climb over the barriers. And so the videos themselves, I mean, they're horrifying. When you like, I saw just a couple of scans and it's like bodies down everywhere getting CPR. And it's way more than 10 people. Like I know that. So it was just interesting for me to be able to put all this like new knowledge into kind of like practical understanding of what I saw unfolding in like basically what was going to be a conspiracy theory. Like I knew that it was going to be called a conspiracy theory before it started. And
yeah,
I was like, I can get ahead of this. Like I can prove what happened, you know, before people are even questioning it.
I mean, that's like standard, like the conspiracy thing, or so many false flags out there as well. Like it's crazy when you're talking about this, like the EMFs or what they can use in terms of the technology they've had it out for decades. The military have been known how to use this to disperse crowds or to freeze people, to change people's to change people's moods. To make them violent or non-violent, and they can be these waves can be directed at people just like a gun can, like a bullet. And so everything we see in those pictures, it matches up to all the symptoms that you would see from an attack like that. And I mean, you saw people out. I mean, first of all, we saw people out there screaming like people are dying or people are dead, and the concert carried on. And the amount of other things that were going around that concert that were just hugely satanic and rituals. I mean, everything about it, from the music, the frequencies, the images, the colors, it just screamed satanic ritual.
Mm-hmm. It was disgusting. And it's hard to like wrap your head around unless you can understand the science, in my opinion. Like it sounds, you know, if you just want to like say, oh, it was like a satanic ritual and, you know, like it was like black magic. For me, like a scientific, practical person, I don't know that I would be able to fully subscribe to like, okay, yeah, something was off about it, but like, I don't know that like it was black magic or satanic ritual. But then when you understand physically, like anatomically, what happened to their bodies, it's like, oh, like this is a way bigger conspiracy like than we could have ever imagined. And I feel like that's why it's hard for people to wrap their minds around it, because it's so big that it's like it literally their entire sense of reality is going to crumble. Like as soon as they start to accept that what they believe is true is not, it's like it's too scary for them to like, because it's so much at this point.
Well, it's just I think it's just the quote. It's like you sound like a crazy person to like normal people, or that like a normal person sounds crazy to the crazy people. I don't know what it is, but it's in like, you know what's going on. The more that you know, the crazier you sound. And it's like, because if you knew, I can't remember who it was who said it once. It might have been William Cooper, who said like, whatever you think the government are doing or whatever you think these people behind are doing, it's worse. It's way worse. And he wrote a book called Behold the Pale Horse. Do you know who William Cooper is?
No.
He's one of the he had a background in like the US Navy, but he was the one who looked into the assassination of JFK and what actually happened there, and lots of other things. His book's phenomenal, and so have a look into him. You'll really like it. But it's so when you look, you posted quite a bit about it, about what was going on.
So for me, I remember like when the C word first came out and I was still I wasn't working bedside, but I was still, traumatized from my experience in nursing and my experience, with Jason's accident. And when the C word first happened, like, I remember, people being like, it's not real, it's blah, blah, blah. And I was like, of course it's real. Like, I know my coworkers are busting their butts trying to save lives. Like, this is real. How could it not be real? And so like my own, cognitive dissonance, I couldn't see reality for what it was. And what woke me up was the Wayfair scandal, several months later, maybe even like a year later. And I was like following Instagram accounts, conspiracy theory Instagram accounts, and I watched them share about the Wayfair scandal. And that's kind of like what crumbled my walls down. And then I was like, oh my God, that just, it opened up my eyes, because I feel like I was more removed. Like, it wasn't. And so I've been speaking out about, the things that they're trying to make us get, and, all of it. And a lot of my former colleagues are just really, they can't see it. They keep fighting me and, accusing me of spreading misinformation. And I knew that if I could share the truth of Astroworld, it would likely help some of them be able to see more things with a more realistic point of view.
So for people out there, the Wayfair scandal, just to expand on that for them, you mean the things were being bought? Things were being bought on the websites for a much higher price. And for example, like a set of wardrobes is going for like tens of thousands of pounds when it's worth about 400 because of things that are inside them. Yeah. And so obviously, I was going to say to you, have you had much kickback from people regarding your change of opinion or what you've been talking about? How's that?
For the most part, I'm actually surprised. For the most part, no, it's been wildly supportive, saying like, it's impactful coming from a nurse and from someone who knows as much as you do. Like, thank you for speaking out. I do feel like I have the liberty to do so because I'm not dependent on, a nursing job to pay my bills. I think that's probably a big part of it. I know, plenty of doctors have $500,000 worth of debt. So like, if they, speak out and lose their job, how are they going to pay their bills? Like, I understand that a lot of people are financially in a hard spot. So for me, I was like, I have nothing to lose. Like, even if they, they're now threatening to take away your nursing license for speaking out about this. And I'm like, whatever, like, take it if you want it, it's not going to change anything for me because I have my business and I'm not reliant on that. So it's nice for me. So I think a lot of people, for the most part, people have been really grateful for me speaking out. There are a fair amount of people that I know that I'm triggering. I'm doing it in a way that is very respectful and loving and compassionate of everyone, like being understanding of where people are at. Cause like I said, I was in my own cognitive dissonance. Like, I don't think I'm any better than anyone else who hasn't woken up yet. I've just been given the experiences that allowed me to see things for what they are. But I think if people can feel like safer, if they can learn how to let their guard down, to be open to more information. Like, I just feel like the world is traumatized. Like, I feel like our nervous system is like fight or flight, sympathetic response. And you're never going to be able to learn more new information if you're in survival mode. So my goal is to make people feel safe and understood and heard and valued with where they're at right now, so that when I present new information, they can hopefully receive it, in a non-threatening way. And it's been effective. I think, there are a handful of healthcare workers that are still like, no, I'm sure, a bunch of them have unfollowed me, and that's fine. My family is pretty not supportive of me being a crazy conspiracy theorist, but I have to be me and I have to be acting in integrity. They'll be like, I think you're trying to scare people away from getting this. And I'm like, no, like, I cannot with 1 ounce of moral fiber, not act like this is okay. What's happening?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is as well, it's you're new to it. So then I've been doing this 12 years. So when I first, did it in my family over years, have been like, oh my God, everything you said, it's like, well, of course, but you're new to this. So expect that, especially people that push back. But as you said, you can only stay in your truth. Otherwise, you're going to be untruth for yourself. And that comes with a whole host of issues. And the only person you're with 100% of the time, Mel, is yourself. So as long as you're true to that's key. And so, and, you've got people, and also obviously if you don't stand for anything, the man who stands for nothing will fall for anything. And people that have, haters or whatever it is, it's because you're putting things out into the world, and people you also like could be showing them where they're lacking in certain areas of their life, or they're not open to it. And as you said, they 100% want us in fight and flight the whole time. Most people are in their fight and flight 75% of the time, 25% in their parasympathetic or less, when it should be completely reversed. And this is why there's a coffee shop on every corner. If you look into Starbucks and the symbology behind Starbucks and what that actually is, it's not a mermaid. You understand why. Coffee shops, every corner puts you in your limbic brain. Same as why there's a pub on every corner, because alcohol puts you in your limbic brain, and sugar in your limbic brain, and all these things that they do. Fear porn on the news, limbic brain. You can't think. You're either in your reptile, which is fight, flight, fornicate. That's what you want to do. Million, stay into the herd. Crabs in a bucket, don't come out because they'll pull you back in. Finally, people get in the human brain, they can think clearly. And unfortunately, most people aren't there. This is why the principles of health are so important, because they get you back to balance, not just the food you eat, but getting enough sunlight. Are you drinking enough clean water? Are you doing breath work? Are you taking cold showers? Are you spending time in nature? Are you listening to uplifting podcasts? If you even look at the way the news is done with big red letters and the symbology that's coming out into you, this is all CIA brainwashing. It's been like dissected millions of times. And so it's just because people are just used to it. Oh, it's just the news. So yeah. And who's behind that news? Who's telling you these things? Because the news that you really need to know, they spend billions hiding from you, spend billions of pounds hiding you from. It's like Google. People have no idea that Google in 2018 is actually a pharmaceutical company. Apple, Alphabet, their parent company, become a pharmaceutical company. That's why every single search now, you search for a health issue, it goes straight to a drug. 10 years ago, it was a decent search engine. Now, unless you're using Quant, QWANT, you're never going to get what you want, the truth. So these are things that you won't know unless you're in our world, because why would you? Because it takes having to, it's like Dr. McCullough, the biggest natural health website in the world. Can't find him.
I know. Yeah. It's so frustrating. It's so crazy.
But that's what happens when you go against these people that have, they YouTube, Google, they're bigger than the government. Really, they can manipulate opinion more than the government can. Now they know that, and this is why it's done. Like the privatization, was it Build Back Better? It's basically like a code for communism.
Right. The government knows how to run your life better than you. Yeah.
There's privatizations. There's huge private companies at the top, and then everyone else at the bottom. And so it's privatized, where it's like capitalist communism or whatever they call it. It's like a mixture of both, where it's like, well, no, these companies are all in bed with each other, and that's why you can't find the information. So you have to know where to look. So
it's hard too. Like I can't just like tell my friend, oh, go look for this. It's like, no, I have to like explain the whole internet to you. It's so crazy.
Yeah, no, but it's and also because like accounts getting. I mean, this is the thing. If they weren't worried about what we had to say, they wouldn't just be censoring accounts and have free speech and etc. But it's
even just people sharing their personal stories that breaks my heart. Like it's one thing to be censoring doctors and stuff who are giving actual information, but like, how dare you just like pretend like these people don't exist and pretend like their injuries aren't real, pretend like their suffering isn't real. Like, it's so sad to me. Like, so much of our human suffering is unnecessary and it's preventable and it's at the hands of a corrupt system. And it's so gross and disgusting. I could not live with myself not speaking out about it.
Oh, it's because you've got a good heart and you're a good person. And this is the thing I say, when people used to question me, I say, what do I gain from this? What, you'll think I'm a nutcase? So I deal with people that, lost their children and lost their partners through taking these things. Robert Kennedy Jr. come out, had a really good quote. He said the term vaccine misinformation is a euphemism for any statement that departs from official government policies and pharmaceutical industry profit taking. It has nothing to do with whether it's true or false. It only has to do with the political or what the political implications are. And that's the truth. It doesn't matter if it's true or false. It goes against the official narrative. Fact check, and those fact checkers, you look into who funds them. Yeah. It's quite laughable. And polyfact and all these things. I had them last year come out PolitiFact saying that my site is a conspiracy site, that, all this, and I was like, laughable. Been doing this like 12 years, and I'm a conspiracy site because it was like, argue with my results, please argue with them.
Right.
But because they got so much money, they can do this, and they can, gaslight, and as you said, people that are going through things and they're sharing their story. How is that misinformation?
Right. It's so sad.
It's hugely sad. It's a shame. Your family will, well, I would go one of two ways, but generally they'll come around. You keep on doing your thing. Anything else that you've uncovered that you want to share?
I mean, there's so much, but I think like my last thing would just be, if you are someone who wants to improve your health, like get in the hands of someone that knows what they're doing. Because like for me, I've been kind of just trying to figure this out on my own, using my own, medical knowledge, and even just like trying to help my boyfriend was put on a ton of meds from his accident. So just like trying to get him off and like trying to figure out like what makes us feel good, what doesn't. I would just say like work with someone like Ryan, like work with a professional who can help you and guide you, because it's a lot to try to navigate, and it's impossible to do it without a ton of your own knowledge, like, because you don't have access to the information that you need,
Yeah, 100%. And I always say that, whether it's with us or with someone else, if you're ever need help, then go to someone, because even the best coaches and the best athletes in the world have coaches. You need another set of eyes on you. You can't see 360 around what you're doing. Maybe you've been doing something for so long that you think it's working when it's not. And so I always say, whether it's us or someone else, look, that's why I have coaches in different areas of my life, because I don't know everything there is to know. So I need, and even with what I do, I've got people that I bounce things off. Okay, what about this? What about that? It needs to be done. I was going to say about your boyfriend, if you're ever the guy that I would go to when it comes to accidents like that, I don't know if Francis mentioned it to you, but it was the guy called Paul Chek. I don't know if you've ever looked into him. Paul Chek is like the holistic godfather. He's been doing this. He was talking about gut health in like 1980s, and people laughing at him. But he's helped people like Danny Way, who's like a BMX world champion, who was told he'd never walk again. He helped him back to a world champion, and other people like Leo Hamilton, who's a professional surfer. Basically, people that have been told, he's the people that the doctors used to go to rehab people that couldn't get him back. He's not a cheap date, but that's because he's like one of the best.
What was his name again?
Paul Chek, Chek. He also got a podcast that you would love called Living 4D with Paul Chek. He actually got an institute as well. He's got the Chek Institute. I'm not actually a Chek professional, but everything I teach is basically in alignment with what he does. It's where I come across him. I went and learned across the world. When I finally come across Paul, I was like, oh, you put it all together. And so he's someone that like I would definitely look into for, I think you said Jason. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Jason.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Yeah, no worries. Because a lot of the time, the structural alignment, all your organs, and it's like crazy. Your atlas can be out by like a quarter of a centimeter, and that can affect everything. And especially with the impact that he's been on, his organs, the medication he's been on, his tendons, his ligaments, and his nervous system has been through a lot. So, Paul is one of those people, like people either you'll love him, but like people in the world are like, oh, he's a crackpot, or he's like phenomenal. And right. Trust me, he's phenomenal. He's gone deep into all. He's been doing this for a long time. So have a look into him and see what you think. Otherwise, other people I can recommend, but he'll be the top person. But Mel, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. It was awesome.
Keep doing your thing. Keep digging and keep sharing the truth, because the world needs more people like yourself doing it.
Thank you for leading the way for so long.
No problem. And I'm sure we'll have a chat another time. But in the meantime, keep well done, and I'll speak to you soon.
Thanks, Ryan.
So, guys, that was Melissa Treat sharing her experience and her story and what she's been finding and how she's been finding actually speaking out when it comes to the truth. I said before, I've been doing this a long time. So when it's come to speaking out about what's going on in the world, people have just been like, yeah, Ryan's been talking about this a long time, but I understand for a lot of people this has been new, and when you've been actually had your eyes opened, or just even if you had your eyes open before but you hadn't really shared what you believed, it can be a difficult time. But stay true to yourself. The only person you're with 100% of the time is you, and if you can actually be proud when you look back in the mirror, that's all that really matters. I'm not saying go out there and just be gung-ho and end relationships, but you know, if things aren't serving you anymore, have a serious conversation with yourself about where you want to go and move forward. And just like Melissa shared there, you know, it's not always easy, but it's always worthwhile, and it's led to her actually, you know, being able to move forward into a different career that she actually enjoys, and you know, actually help humanity in what she actually went into nursing for to begin with. Now she does it in a different way. As always, guys, if you are dealing with a health issue and you're looking to finally overcome it and put it behind you, don't hesitate to contact me via email on ryan@reviveyourself.co. That's ryan@reviveyourself.co, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can, and we can have a chat about how we can help you overcome whatever illness it is. Because remember, you know, you don't have to live in pain. Your body wants to be healthy. Its default setting is health. You just have to give it the right circumstances to do that and to heal. Otherwise, guys, I will see you shortly with another episode. In the meantime, stay happy, stay healthy. Keep doing everything you can to promote health with your daily health principles and protocols. And I'm sending you my love. Speak soon.
If you're struggling with gut issues, such as gas, bloating, constipation, diarrhea, indigestion, heartburn, and want to finally be able to eat the foods you love without the crippling after effects, then don't forget to head over to reviveyourself.co and pick up your free copy of The Healing Health Paradigm today.